So good morning and welcome to this class on corporate governance. I will be discussing about corporate governance from the University of Calicut. So this is BUS 4C22 Corporate Governance, University of Calicut. Myself, Dr. Jacob PM, Director, Naipunya Business School. This initiative is taken for the benefit of the students due to the lockdown, and I hope all of you will find this video to be interesting and easy to learn for your fourth semester examinations. There are totally 10 parts of the syllabus, right from module 1 to module 5, and these 10 videos will cover the entire syllabus of this Calicut University corporate governance syllabus. And the corporate governance, the first module, part 1, will deal on corporate governance and overview, public governance system, different views, different systems, public governance structure, meaning and definition of corporate governance, and historical perspective of corporate governance. I would request all of you to kindly go through the entire 10 slides so that you will be able to get the complete information on what is corporate governance. However, I would also request you to kindly read textbooks also so that you will get clarification on it on subjects if it is not being covered well. Similarly, you can also reach to Naipunya Business School MBA department, myself Dr. Jacob, to get more clarity, or if you have any other feedback, you can definitely write to us also at Naipunya Business School. So welcome to this module 1 part 1. So let us discuss about what is corporate governance and public governance. Now, what is corporate governance? It's basically a very important question nowadays because the number of scams that has increased in the company talks about the governance issues. Now, to be in a very simple meaning, corporate governance refers to the way a corporate is governed, or the way in which an organization is being taken through in the corporate world. So corporate governances can be the interaction between the various participants of a corporate, like shareholders, board of directors, promoters, company's management, in shaping a corporation's performance and the way that it wants to proceed and succeed in this corporate world. So corporate governance thus deals with how strategic decisions are taken. It gives the responsibility to the shareholders as well as the board of directors to take decision on their behalf, to take the organization in its time in the required vision and mission. And corporate governance ensures transparency because there are several stakeholders in a corporate governance, including shareholders, directors, employees, consumers, and a whole lot of people who are associated with the company. Moreover, corporate governance also is responsible to the government and offers an opportunity for balanced economical development. What are the benefits of corporate governance? Now, if you have a good corporate governance, it ensures corporate success and economic growth. You would have seen that a lot of scams happening and a lot of money is being lost. That shows that we are having a poor governance. Whereas in good corporate governance, it ensures corporate success and economic growth. Moreover, strong corporate governance also maintains investors' confidence because the investors have invested their money as a shareholder or as a promoter, and they have invested this money as to be utilized efficiently and effectively also. Similarly, you will find there is a positive impact on the share price. Good corporate governance also minimizes wastages, corruption, risk, and mismanagement. It helps in creating a brand because the organization starts performing well. Naturally, the brand value also goes up, and it ensures that the organization is managed in a manner that fits the interest of all, which includes the promoters, the board, the shareholders, the consumers, the investors, everyone. So this is the benefit of corporate. Now we look into another one which is called as public governance system. Now, what is the difference between public governance and corporate governance? Corporate governance is usually found in companies, we call it as corporates. Governed in a corporate, we call it as corporate governance. And public governance are basically the things that we get, the utilities that we get from the government. For example, we have the revenue department or maybe the taxes department, which are all a part of the government for the common public. So that is called as so the management or the governing methods of a organization of the government is called as a public governance system. So public governance refers to the formal and informal arrangements that determine how public decisions are made and how public actions are carried. In the year of COVID, we have seen how the central government gives a directive and how the state government takes it forward, and how the state government is asking its employees, the bureaucracy, to take it forward, the elected representatives to take it forward. This is called as the public governance system. Now, when you have a proper public governance system, it facilitates a smooth and productive interaction between the state and the general public. Public governance is currently more participative and transparent, thanks to the way in which the government has accepted it. It is usually the bottom-up approach because the people from the in the lowest level to the highest level decisions are taken through a methodology of participative interactions. So as a result, it becomes transparent also. However, public governance also has regulatory mechanisms in place to monitor and evaluate public management. For example, there is IRDA, TRI, and all those are regulatory mechanisms which actually regulate and monitor how the system is utilized by the government as well as by the organizations also. All right, so that is basically public governance system. Now, what are the views of public governance system? There are three branches, which has been found as far as public governance system is concerned. One is called as the classical public administration by Woodrow Wilson and Max Weber, which says that public governance system should be run like a business, or in other words, merit-based promotions, professionalization, and non-political system. There is no difference. There should not be any difference between public administration as well as corporate governance. That is what the idea which has been echoed by Woodrow Wilson and Max Weber. It means they should have the targets, they should have strategic planning, and everything which happens in a private sector should happen in a public governance also. Then we have another one called as New Public Management Theory, which says that the government should be effective and responsive to citizens' demands by disaggregation of large bureaucratic organizations to smaller, compact organizations. So here actually they should make it, for example, if they want to implement a policy, the central government should not actually implement the policy on its own. It should be actually made it should be divided, or it should be made into smaller chunks and then sent across. For example, if there is a bridge has to be constructed in a panchayat, the central government can propose it, but the activities and all those things should be taken care of by the in the lower level, so that the people can look at where their money is being, the taxpayers can look at where their money is being sent, and the accountability and transparency can be seen. We talk about something called as Panchayati Raj system also is a part of actually new public management. Postmodern public administration theory talks about restructuring of public services and application of various business management techniques to improve efficiency through privatization. So that is another method where they say that many of these things should be made actually private also. I hope there is a move also right now that some of the, for example, electricity board once upon a time was purely owned by the government of Kerala, but right now it has been formed as a company. So naturally the profits and all those things are a matter right now. As a result, the services of electricity board has also improved drastically. Views on public governance system. uh, looks at government performance. Public governance system helps governments to identify where they are performing and where they are not, and how they could improve this. So here actually public governance system should always assess the capacity of the country's central public administration. So look at what the bureaucracy is doing and based on that, they should assess what the country should be able to do, and increasing their capacities also. Highlighting a country's governance strengths and successes today. Analyze the governance challenges facing a country and addressing the public policy issues. Whenever there is a issue in the public, those should be challenged by the system, by the central government or the state government, and find out as to what is the better opportunity available to work on it. Offering a strengthened evidence base in support of well-targeted reforms to help government make the case of reform, and discussing implementation strategies to drive the governance reform agenda to a successful conclusion. For example, the way in which this COVID-19 is being handled by the Kerala state government is actually a very good example of how how governmental strategies are going to a successful conclusion. Again, governments are concerned on how to cut cost as well as improve efficiency. Then reviews can help shed light on where and how public expenditures can become more efficient. Especially, we have the comptroller of accounts, which gives where public expenditures have been useful and where it has not been. Reviews also should be there. This will definitely give them opportunity on bringing down the public deficit as well. So, what is model of public governance? The general model of public governance focuses on the following: core building blocks for effective and public administration. Let me look at strategy setting and steering, implementing the strategy across the central government to the state government, linking with subnational level to the strategy. That means the central government strategies are being taken care of by the state, and that is gone on into the panchayat level, district level, as well as the panchayat level. And this can happen only if there is a trust in government, partnerships with civil society, maybe with NGOs, and the delivery of public services also. And finally, capacity building in the first sort of trainings and planning should happen. So that is how a public governance system can work. What are the structures of public governance system? Now, one is called as the operational model, where the board manages, governs, and performs the work of the organization, which happens especially in many of the boards. For example, we have different types of boards like core board, spice board, rubber board, tea board, coffee board, where you would find, even though the government is responsible for it, it is basically a board which operates on behalf of the government. Then there is something called as collective model, where the board and the staff operate as a single team when making decisions about governance. And the third one is called as a management model, where the board manages operations through a functional committee that may not have a staff coordinator also. So here actually management model is through the board will operate through committees, functional committees. For example, if you take the COVID itself, we have different types of committees. Medical committee will be there, transportation committee will be there. So different types of committees are there. So that is called as basically the management model. Public governance structure also, there is a constituent representational model, an approach which is used by elected officials, especially through ward members, through MLAs and MPs. We have different constituent representational models also. And the traditional model is basically the board governs and oversees operations through committees established along the functional lines. Now, there is a lot of change which has happened in public governance also. And we utilize different types of structures also. Board structure is there, constitutional representation structure is there. Sometimes we use even traditional or even functional models. So right now we talk about something called as result-based model, because the entire opportunity of public governance rests on basically a results model, where the executive director is viewed as a full partner with the board. Committees organized around the board lead planning, guide governance, and monitor the audit performance of the board, executive, and the organization. The Carver model talks about establishing organizational aims or objectives, governance approaches, and the executive director has the broad freedom to determine the means that will be used to achieve the organizational aim. Now, in result-based model, it is usually the results which will be targeted, whereas in Carver model, it talks about the strategies or the plans by which how this could be achieved. And we have something called as advisory board model also, where a board is selected, which is nominated by the executive board, and they decide actually what is the advice to be given. And that is how you would find that in the state of Kerala, all the three different types of model like results based model, policy governance and advisory model are being utilized. Now we come to corporate governance. I have already told you we have started off with corporate governance. So let's look at what is corporate governance. Corporate governance is the combination of mechanism which ensure that the management runs the firm for the benefit of one or several stakeholders. For example, there is a board of directors led by the chairman. They work for several stakeholders. Maybe promoters can be there, employees can be there, consumers can be there. So there are different types of stakeholders, and corporate governance ensures that every this particular board chairman and the board works for several stakeholders. Now it is defined as a framework of rules. So how it is operated through rules, practices, through which the board of directors ensures accountability, fairness and transparency in a company's relationship with its shareholders, financiers, customers, management, employees, government, and the community. So, when you learn more about corporate governance, you will understand who are all these people and how these people are being satisfied, or how what is the mechanism by which accountability and transparency and fairness are being ensured as far as corporate governance. What are the regulatory mechanisms also will be there. Now, some of the examples of key stakeholders are creditors, directors, employees, government, promoters, suppliers, trade unions, community, workers. All these people are basically stakeholders as far as corporate governance is concerned. Now, historical perspective of corporate governance. Now, when did it start? Now, we know very well that we have that industrial revolution. After that, companies were formed and a lot of companies started producing. But there were, even in management also, we come to know that Henry Fayol or maybe Taylor and all these people have contributed to production. But when profits increased, they resorted to managements resorted to making more profit, and employees wanted to have the share of the profit. And then the promoters also came in; they started investing, and they also wanted to have money. Now, very often, what has happened? Sometimes either the promoters took the money because even though the investors were there, promoters took the money, or sometimes you would find that the board, which was authorized to run the company, took the money, and transparency was lost, accountability was lost. As a result, you would find that there were a lot of scams which happened in the 90s, right from 90s onwards. For example, Enron and Satyam scams, which rocked actually the business, where organizations lost a lot of money because of mismanagement by the company managers. Certain cases, boards, the people who were supposed to be accountable and transparent were ineffective, and they worked according to what the promoters wanted, especially in the case of Satyam scam, where PricewaterhouseCoopers, the accounting firm, as well as the board of directors, did not actually, monitor, or they were ineffective and played into the hands of the promoters. As a result, they were not able to. The company collapsed. So that was another one. There were other methods also by which scams happened. For example, in the case of Lehman Brothers, especially the managers or the CEOs and the managers, they awarded huge bonuses, showing higher profits, and they took a lot of money from the accounts, and that led actually to the breaking of one of the biggest financial institutions, Lehman Brothers, where a lot of small investors also lost money. Many of the people who had put their pension or provident fund amount into this financial institution also lost their money. Auditors colluded or failed to stop the executive directors from using improper accounting policies. Was the case of Satyam scam, where PricewaterhouseCoopers, the auditing firm, colluded with the promoters and took away and showed actually wrong accounting statements, and based on that, they inflated the profits which was not there, and as a result took the money from the account, and again that company also broke down. A culture of greed developed among the senior managers in the case of Satyam scam. Now, all these things contributed to actually the downfall of many businesses, and people lost faith in many of these corporates. because huge money was lost. And another thing which has happened was even it was actually a downturn for it was a downturn also for the government also because economy also was affected at the time of scams which has happened with Satyam or the Harshat Mehta scam which has happened, during the time, a lot of investors also lost money and the economy of the country was also affected to a great deal because currently the economy, one of the parameters for economy is basically the stock market, which was greatly affected because of these scams. Okay, and we come back to some of the initiatives also. How did what were the initiatives? Now, when the Harshat Mehta scam happened in India, India government took up an initiative and that resulted in the formation of SEBI or Securities Exchange Board of India, which started looking at investors, in looking at the investors' funds as well as in how it is managed by companies and took care of the corporate governance so that the investors and the shareholders are always benefited. Now, there are certain international initiatives also which has happened. One of them was the Cadbury Report in 1992, which was followed by the serious financial scandals of BCCI and Mirror Group and many UK companies. And the London Stock Exchange established the Cadbury Report by Sir Adrian Cadbury in May 1991 to bring out a code of best practices with which the boards of all listed companies should comply. Then there was another one which coming from Greenberry report in 1995 from UK again, talking about directors' remuneration because the packages of directors and all were huge, and most of them took money or profits were shown, higher profits were shown, and higher remuneration was also happening. So they were the Greenberry report came into looked into actually the details of director remuneration, packages, stock options, and all those things. So, other than that, we have Nigel Turnbull committee was established by chartered accountants and Wales to provide guidance to its members who prepared an audit financial statement because even financial statements also according to what type of financial accounting there are traditionally gap accounting, there are gap accounting policies or maybe other type of accounting practices are there. So they looked into what is the accounting practices that the company has to follow because now organizations are not limited to a country. They work across continents and even countries also. So OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, which comes under the UN, started proposing actually the principles of corporate governance, and they said that you have to become a member in this, provided you are a member of WTO, and based on that, uh, World Bank, other international organizations, NGOs, uh, several other type of organizations also came together and came out with the OECD principles of corporate governance to be followed by the country as well as the corporates of those countries also. So there has been a lot of changes which has happened. However, we still have to go miles ahead because even now scams are happening, and we hope that there will be in years to come there will be more transparency and accountability as through corporate governance is concerned. So we come to the end of the first part of module 1, and I will be continuing with module 1 part 2. Listen, be with us, and if you have any clarifications you can always write to me at me Dr. Jacob. My email ID is hod@mbanimit.ac.in. Thank you very much.